the train between days. There is a train that doesn't run on any schedule, never advertised, never announced. You don't buy a ticket. You just wake up one morning and you know, today you're meant to board. For Mara, it came on a Tuesday, one of those quiet days that sit between plans. She opened her eyes and felt the hum of it, a low, velvety vibration behind the ribs. Not unpleasant, like being remembered by something older than memory. She brushed her teeth, fed the cat, and walked to the back of her apartment complex, where the chain link fence used to be. Today, it wasn't. Instead, rails stretched across a stretch of soft moss and a whispering pine, vanishing into a pale, misty horizon. The train was waiting, a narrow silver thing with windows that shimmered faintly blue, as if underwater. Mara stepped on board without hesitation. No conductor asked her name. No one checked a pass. The moment she sat down, the train moved. She looked out the window, expecting trees or distant rooftops, something familiar. But the outside view shimmered, rearranged, became something else entirely. The train was moving through seasons, not just landscapes, whole seasons. First came late spring, pale and warm, meadows of long grasses bent gently in the wind, a soft chorus of frogs murmuring in the background. The light was kind, like morning light filtered through gauze. People picnicked in fields, though they never turned their heads. Everything outside the train was in slow motion, a kind of living memory that faded as the train moved on. Then summer came, not the bright, harsh summer of high July, but late summer, golden and thick with the scent of dry earth and overripe peaches. The train rolled past a small orchard. A boy climbed a ladder in silence, reaching for fruit, his shadow long in the honey-coloured dusk. Wind chimes hung from the trees, barely moving. Something about it tugged at her chest, a familiarity she couldn't name. In the cabin, everything stayed calm. There were others on board, silent passengers, each seated alone. No one spoke. Some read. Some stared out the windows. One man carved small shapes from a block of cedar wood, the shavings curling onto his lap. The air smelled faintly of lavender and warm fabric, as if someone nearby had just ironed sheets. The next window showed autumn, but not just any autumn. It was the version that exists only in certain memories, where every leaf glows like it's lit from within, and the ground is thick with them, soft as a rug. A small path twisted through the woods. An old woman walked it slowly, a basket in hand, stopping now and then to pick up something only she could see. The passengers shifted in their seats, just slightly. Someone sighed. No one had phones out. No one seemed impatient. Time inside the train didn't pass the way it usually does. It unfolded, like a song played softly in the background, so slowly you forget when it began. The train began to climb. Now, outside, snow started to fall, gentle dry flakes drifting in a pale lavender twilight. The train passed over a frozen lake, then entered a long stretch of forest with low, round hills covered in soft snow. Lights blinked in the distance, as if in greeting. Mara leaned closer to the window. A cottage, then another. Smoke rising lazily from a chimney. Dogs curled by doorsteps. A figure in a wool coat feeding birds from a gloved hand. The view slowed. Something told her this stop was optional. And so she stood. One other passenger did too, the cedarwood carver. The rest remained. A door opened at the end of the car, leading not to a station, but to a trail lit by old-fashioned lamps nestled in the snow. As Mara stepped off, the air changed. Crisp, bright, the kind of cold that clears the mind. "Where does the train go?" she asked the man, breaking the silence between them. He smiled like someone who has heard the question before. "Between places, between versions of yourself, it always comes back." She nodded, somehow understanding without needing to understand. They walked down the path without urgency. In the woods, there was a cabin, not the kind from stories, but real in the simplest way. Smoke rising, a chair on the porch, books stacked in a window. Inside, a kettle whistled. They stayed there, not for long, but long enough. They sat by the fire. They talked, finally, not of where they came from, or where they'd go next, but about the things that sit between those questions. She asked if he'd ever ridden the train before. He said he had, many times. "It shows you the soft places," he said, "the parts of your life you don't linger in, but should." They stayed until the snow stopped and the stars came out, sharp and steady like tiny bells. And when Mara felt the hum again, that low vibration behind the ribs, she knew the train had returned. Not out loud, not visibly, but it was there. They walked back to the trail. The train waited, as it always did. No schedule, no rush. She stepped back on. This time, the car was nearly empty, but she didn't feel alone. She took the same seat. The window showed nothing now, just night. Not the dark, frightening kind, the comforting kind, heavy, still, like velvet. She rested her head against the glass. The train rocked gently. The lights dimmed. The hum settled into her bones. Somewhere, far ahead, spring would come again.